Today's threat to our national security is not a matter of military weapons alone. We know of new methods of attack. The Trojan horse, the fifth column that betrays a nation unprepared for treachery. Spies, saboteurs, and traitors are the actors in this new strategy. These dividing forces are undiluted poison. They must not be allowed to spread in the new world as they have in the old. Our moral and our mental defenses must be raised up as never before against those who would cast a smokescreen across our vision.
On this episode of Just Informed Talk, we are going to take a look at the latest new Q posts. Yes, we have new Q posts, and they're pointing us to the connections that can be made between Joe Biden, Ghislaine Maxwell, his brother, and the Virgin Islands, where Jeffrey Epstein's pedo island was. We're going to take a deep dive look into that. Plus, we're going to talk about a bunch of other breaking news stories that the fake news will not tell you about. So you guys are going to want to stick around and check out that and a whole lot more. Hi, and welcome to another episode of Just Informed Talk. I'm your host, Craig. You guys know the drill. If you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, come here, click the big red subscribe button, then hit that bell. Make sure you hit all so you get notified as soon as all these videos get posted. Plus, we do a segment at the end called God's Grace is Greater. Today, I'm going to dedicate it to a very close friend of mine who passed away this morning. She was an incredible person, and yeah, we'll talk about that later in the episode. So, with that being said, it's been a tough day, but we'll get into the latest. As we're going to see, we have a bunch of Q posts we're going to cover here. We got a lot of that to get into, and as always, we're going to get into the latest breaking news, things that you won't see in the fake news media, and so it's going to be quite an episode for you to stick around on. Now, but before we get started, a quick reminder, this video is brought to you in part by Brave Browser. If you guys haven't tried this yet, you need to download it, install it, and run it using the link in the description for free, and that way they'll make a contribution to this channel, so it's a win-win. You get a great free product, and they'll help support this channel. So it's a internet browser. It blocks the ads. It's got a built-in firewall, VPN, Tor browser. It's a great product. I really encourage you guys to check it out. You can download it for your desktop, laptop, your smartphone. It's an internet browser that's better than Google Chrome, Firefox, Internet Explorer, Safari, whatever you're using, because it blocks the ads and it gives you a better internet experience altogether. So if you guys want to give it a shot, I recommend you download the Brave browser today. Use the link in the description so they know I sent you. That way they'll make a contribution to this channel. It's a win-win. You get a great product and you help support the content that I'm creating here. Now, let's get in the latest Q post. The first Q post, 4622, we left off of 4621, says, ask yourself a very simple question. Why is everything regarding Q being censored, banned, and attacked? When do you expend ammunition, resources? Q. Well, of course, what Q I think is insinuating is that in the last video, if you guys haven't saw that, they actually asked President Trump the question about QAnon at a press conference, and he finally answered it. Now, a lot of people are, telling me online, he didn't directly answer the question. He didn't endorse Q. Well, obviously, I think there's a few things we need to understand here. And if you guys want to get the context on that, go back and watch this last video. It guys, the full clip, and it explains it all. But what I think the context is we need to take away from this is that Q is saying, why are they going against Q now? And why are they, and the real question is, why are they asking the question now? They've had all this time up to this point to ask the question, but now they're trying to set us up, ladies and gentlemen, right? Because they see us as a threat, as their violent paramilitary thugs march through the street, burning down police precincts and violently assaulting people, committing hate crimes, racist hate crimes, right? Calling people all types of names, attacking people just because of the color of their skin. You have to understand that they're trying to frame us up now. You know what the funniest thing is? I just got to give a little aside here. I'm on Twitter, as you guys know, and I'm always on there. And now something I'm noticing with all the shills and the bots and everything is I'm getting called a domestic terrorist a lot, right? That's their big comeback, right? As we see actual domestic terrorists in the streets committing violent hate crimes, which I've never seen any Q supporters out there committing violent hate crimes. I haven't seen any Q supporters out in the streets burning down buildings, but I have seen a lot of violent, racist thugs from BLM burning things down and Antifa burning things down. But I'm getting called a domestic terrorist. And again, this is the Democrat playbook 101, right? Accuse your enemy of what you are doing yourself. It's a form of gaslighting. It's a form of cognitive dissonance. It's a form of psychological warfare that they're very adept at using. They've used this through the Democratic Party the whole time. I mean, Tucker Carlson did a great segment on this last night on his show where he talked about how the whole DNC, all these, Michelle Obama, all the people that are speaking at the DNC are literally just accusing everyone of what they're guilty of because they're so desperate. They're so pathetic and weak that they only have that tactic. They rely on the unawakened masses who watch them and follow them blindly to twist the narrative to make it seem as though their opponents are guilty of all of the things that they themselves are engaged in. I mean, it is disgusting. It is pathetic. It is a weak attempt at trying to distort the truth. And I think that's what they're trying to set up President Trump with now by asking him the question in these press conferences because they have something planned because they're evil. And that's just my, humble opinion. But why else would you have a media that is so adversarial toward the President of the United States? Why else would you have a media that is complicit in covering up domestic terrorism across the country? Why else would you have a media who every day writes lies, fake news lies about the president, about his supporters, about his agenda? I mean, I subscribe to all these people on Twitter, and sometimes it does make your blood boil. But when you read the lies and you read the level of complete, psychosis that these people live in every day, and they have zero self-awareness, or they have self-awareness and they purposely, maliciously are lying, which I think it's malevolent, what they're doing, and I think it's intentional. So when you see this happen over and over and over again, it makes you understand how they work. And as we understand better how they work, it becomes quite clear why they're trying to push to censor us, and why this whole question's come up now, and why they won't ask the question in a way that gives President Trump an opportunity to answer it effectively. Although you'll see that they did ask the actual question about, they said, Mr. President. Well, they don't call him Mr. President, of course, because they're just the worst kind of people, the most disrespectful kind of people you can imagine, the ones in the press pool, especially the fake news liars from CNN and MSNBC and the rest, right? They asked President Trump, do you believe that QAnon, this theory about satanic globalists and pedophiles is real? And he's like, why would it be a bad thing? I mean, I'm paraphrasing. He's like, what's wrong with that? And he goes, and we are. So I think he almost answered the question in the affirmative, saying, when they asked him, but do you believe that it's a satanic pedophile ring of globalists who want to destroy the world and want to take over the world? And he said, if that were true, how is that a bad thing? And we are protecting. And he says, we are up against the left, the crazy left, these people who are violent, radical communists who literally are launching an insurrection in our country, backed by a corrupt class of politicians who sold our country out to the highest bidder, committed treason, betrayed the trust of the American people while you were asleep. They were selling us out to China and every other country in the world, Ukraine, the highest bidders, and they were offshoring all of billions of dollars for themselves and their friends, basically fleecing the American people and stealing all of our money because they're corrupt criminals. And that's where we're at, right? The fact of the matter is if you think about it, we've come to this situation where you have the censorship is ramping up. They're kicking people off Facebook. I don't know. I got off Facebook a long time ago because I could tell that place was a tinderbox of just evil. And people were just so brainwashed and so stupid that, and I don't mean to say that, I mean, because these people, a lot of them, it's all fairness, they're just asleep, they haven't woken up yet, but just such ignorance and such confidence in their ignorance that it was, I knew it was going to end up a bad place, but still a lot of you are on there. I'd say the majority of you probably have a Facebook account still. I got rid of it as soon as I figured out it was LifeLog and that it was created by DARPA and the deep state to basically have us personally submit our own social profiles and turn over our entire social media lives to the government in a very neatly packaged place like Facebook. But the point is that Facebook is now just gone full Orwellian censorship. You are going to get thrown in the memory hole if you even remotely go against their narrative or their orthodoxy or what they deem to be the truth. It's amazing to me to watch these big tech social media companies pretend to be doctors and medical, and give medical advice and, ban people for talking openly about things like hydroxychloroquine and things like the COVID-19 and how its spread rate is low or is high, but its mortality rate is very low. And there's not a lot of evidence to show that all of these lockdowns and all of this mask wearing is necessary. It's just amazing to me to watch them shut down those conversations while amplifying the World Health Organization, which is in the pocket of the Chinese communists, who we know the big tech companies are in bed with. So in a coordinated effort to launch a Marxist revolution in this country to overthrow our republic, yeah. I mean, there's a reason why every single person out there is so, the ones in the streets at least, who are burning things down and committing the hate crimes, that they're so brainwashed that they think that America is a terrible place. It should never have existed, and that they need to destroy it. Well, who does that benefit? It certainly doesn't benefit the people on the street burning everything down. It benefits our enemies. It benefits the people who are trying to take advantage of us. It benefits the countries who are trying to destroy us. And it just seems very fascinating to me that that's where we've come to. And I digress. So let's get into the next post here. Epstein Island, who owns the surrounding islands, coast proximity, unique skill sets of Maxwell, submarine pilot, unusual helicopter pilot. What benefit might that have served, or might that serve? Q. So Q gives us here this video. It's a 15-minute video of Ghislaine Maxwell talking about some very fascinating things about her Terra Mar project. And I'll summarize it for you, the highlights, because I think that it's a 15-minute video. If you want to go watch it, I'll leave a link. But the things that really stood out to me were where she talks about how she created this website, and the whole concept behind her website is I think it's kind of similar to the adopt a highway thing, except you adopt a piece of the ocean, except you buy a piece of the ocean, which you don't really own. But the theme that she keeps driving in this video is that she believes that herself and all of us, I guess, together, or at least the people in that room, own the common ocean, and which we do, right? It's okay. She says basically that all the ocean that's not really claimed, which is like international waters, is common to all people, so we all own it. So therefore, she wants to map it. And what really stood out to me, though, she talks about how she partnered with Google, right? She partnered with Google to do like a Google Street Maps. You know how they drive those cars around to map all the streets so you can have the street view? Well, to do that same thing in the ocean. Why would you want to map the ocean? Maybe if you're a submarine pilot, perhaps, who is trafficking children, perhaps, from countries like Venezuela and Haiti, perhaps, and you are using helicopters and submarines and yachts to traffic children through these international waters, which you think you own, perhaps, then it might make sense that you would partner with Google, who we know has been involved in some pretty nefarious things. Plus, you have the fact that she mentions very snarky remarks saying that they've basically mapped all the ocean floors except North Korea, but then she says, but I'm working on that. So how is she working on that? How is Ghislaine Maxwell working on relations with North Korea? And also in this video, you'll notice that when she's introduced, she's given several talks to the United Nations in her introduction, they said. So I just find it strange that, we have this person in custody, and, this was one of the globalist facilitators for, I think, personally, maybe, this global human trafficking, drug trafficking, gun, weapons trafficking, all of it, you name it, right? And it seems pretty obvious when you watch the video, you know, what's going on there. But yeah, Q wants us to look at that. And the island surrounding it goes to this, right? Lobbyist bought tropical island or tropical land from Biden's brother. So there's a few interesting things about this article as you read through it. It talks about Joe Biden, his brother James Biden, and this guy Scott Green. Now, when you read through this article, there's a lot to this. Apparently, they bought a piece of land. James Biden bought a piece of land in the Caribbean on an island called Water Island, which is in the Virgin Islands, and it was purchased for $150,000. Then it was parceled into 3 sects of land, one of which was sold to this guy Scott Green, who is a lobbyist, who is a good friend apparently of Joe Biden, who bought it for the exact amount that James Biden purchased the whole set of land for. So it was 1 acre and it was split into 3, and then Scott Green bought the 3rd acre that was for sale for $150,000, which is exactly what Joe Biden's brother paid for it originally. Now, this was a piece of land that was inaccessible by road, so they had to get a grant from the government, an easement, so they could have a driveway into the land, which made it more valuable, which that's a little questionable as well. Then you also look at the fact that when you read through this story, it talks about how, you know, this island used to be a 500-acre spit in the U.S. Virgin Islands that was purchased by the Department of Defense in World War II and using it to protect a submarine base. Very interesting. Think about what we just talked about with Ghislaine Maxwell and her submarine license, which is what this video that we just saw talks about. Is she also talks about how she's a, you know, avid submarine pilot, helicopter pilot, etc. So this Water Island, it's a vacation spot. A lot of people have very fancy houses there, but it's an island that's only accessible by boat. And Joe Biden spent time there as well. And James Biden bought this piece of property there, which is very fascinating. And then when you keep reading through the story here, you start to see a lot of interesting things come together. First of all, you notice that the land value is fluctuating as it, you know, has gone. I don't think the land's fully developed yet. But then it talks about Scott Green, the guy who bought the land for the exact amount, and how he's been a lobbyist who has been working with James Biden and others with Joe Biden to back all of these very interesting programs that took millions of dollars in government funding, which made the firm owned by Scott Green, which was a lobbying firm, very wealthy indeed. Also, it talks about government contracts. They had a niche support services for law enforcement and national security agencies, which is another fascinating thing. Many appropriations that were proposed by Joe Biden in the Senate were very specialized closely to interoperable communications for first responders and fusion centers for processing threat-related intelligence. And it talks about this Lafayette Group. Now, Lafayette Group is the corporation, I guess, that's being referenced here, and it's the one that's being run by Scott Green, who's friends with Joe Biden. But a few things you note here, you kind of read through it, you see what the land looks like and how it's been parceled off, and you kind of understand, you know, when you read through this, they were lobbying for, you know, funding for different things related to Homeland Security and a lot of other things, including the DARE program, which if you were a kid in the 80s or 90s in school, they probably had somebody come in as a DARE officer to tell you about drugs, which turned out to be a very ineffective program that wasted millions of taxpayer dollars and was paying this lobbying firm $40,000 a year, which Joe Biden was lobbying for. But ultimately, if you know about the DARE program, it was found later to be very inefficient and ineffective, and if not, counterproductive, because if you bring a police officer into a room full of 5th graders and you start showing them how to do drugs and telling them not to, I think they were actually desiring the opposite outcome. I think it was a program meant to get kids on drugs, which is disgusting, but that seems to be what it was. It talks about the connections there. Then it talks about the land deal. There's a lot of information here if you want to go read through it for yourself, but I want to highlight one part in this that I thought was really important right here, where it talks about this right here. It says, among Lafayette Group's biggest single days for government business during the Obama years was April 11, 2010, when records show it received 2 awards from the Federal Emergency Management Agency worth a total of $5.8 million as a subcontractor to guess who? Booz Allen Hamilton. Now that name might sound familiar, as that was the organization for which Edward Snowden was working. Interesting. It goes on to say Lafayette Group was charged with providing support for the Office of Emergency Communications, contract developing communication strategies, according to the description of the award. And there's no indication that Biden played a role in the award. But it says on April 14th of that year, Green and his wife gave James and Sarah Biden a $133,000 mortgage on their remaining island real estate, according to a property records. And it says that was not the first time Biden tied lobbyists had figured into James Biden's personal finances. In an unrelated episode, he and Joe's son Hunter took out loans worth 7 figures from Washington First Bank to repay business debt around 2006. So you see, it's all the same players, and they're all in this, Caribbean island scheme where I think what this all is exposing is just how they funnel money out of the country, how they put themselves in positions in other places to possibly be involved in some pretty nefarious activities. So you can read through that story if you want. A few things that were interesting, though, is it talks about here, Scott Green actually lists this picture of him and Joe Biden on their website for their Lafayette Group. And of course, there is a Airbnb that is the one that I guess Joe Biden stayed at when he went to Water Island. And they even brag about it here in the description, saying Vice President Joe Biden spent Christmas here, as did a U.S. Senator, Governor, and the head of a labor union. That's interesting. That's a lot of high-level dignitaries and government officials, I should say, spending time in this specific place, which is not very impressive, other than the fact that it's, obviously a beautiful tropical island. So, yeah, maybe there is more there. Maybe we should be digging a little bit deeper on that, I would say. Then, of course, Q gives us this here, panic in D.C., and that is kind of self-explanatory. And, of course, here, the fifth column. Now, what is the fifth column? Well, according to Britannica online here, it says the fifth column is a clandestine group or faction of subversive agents who attempt to undermine a nation's solidarity by any means at their disposal. The term is conventionally credited to Emilio Mola Vidal, a nationalist general during the Spanish Civil War. As 4 of his army columns moved on Madrid, the general referred to his militant supporters within the capital as his fifth column, intent on undermining the loyalist government from within. A cardinal technique of the fifth column is the infiltration of sympathizers into the entire fabric of a nation under attack, and particularly into positions of policy decision and national defense. From such key posts, fifth column activists exploit the fears of a people by spreading rumors and misinformation, as well as by employing the more standard techniques of espionage and sabotage. Well, that's terrifying, but that seems to be exactly what we're up against today, right? There's a clandestine group of subversive agents who have infiltrated all levels of our government, but most specifically levels that are positions of policy decision and national defense. That's what we're up against, ladies and gentlemen. That's what this whole BLM thing is. That's what these Marxist communist traitors did to our country. That's what Hussein and his treasonous traitor allies did. That's what this is all about, okay? This is all about infiltrating our nation to destroy it from within. And we should all be very aware of it now. That's where we leave it with the Q stuff. And then we have a few more stories here. Former Senate President of Haiti demands full audit by President Trump of the billions taken by the Clinton Foundation, only 2% reaching Haiti. This just came out, and you got to hear this guy's testimony. I'm going to play this for you because you have to hear his words. This is the former Senate President of Haiti talking about how he was offered bribes by the Clintons. Listen to this.
So we spent 4 hours. I discussed it with Bill Richardson because I said to Bill, take the message back to President Clinton. I know you are here because he sent you. A week later, after my conversation with Bill Richardson, the American embassy called me, as it was often the case, and then said, President Clinton has a messenger for you. I said, send him over. He came, did not give me his name, but told me, Mr. Sensory, you join our movement. You side with Bill Clinton in this invasion and we'll make you the richest man in Haiti. I said, sir, tell President Clinton for me Bernard Sensory is not for sale. I have principle and I love my country. A week later, by executive order, Clinton revoked my visa. I was then a resident of the United States. I am now a citizen of the United States. And this is how it's been in Haiti. The Clinton, when after the invasion, they started a cellular company called Fusion International. To make a long story short, now it's Digicel who is taking over, and his friend Dennis O'Brien has given millions to the Clinton Foundation. In 2010, the earthquake of Haiti, not only American taxpayers, but the whole world has given billions of dollars to the Clinton Foundation for the Haitians. Not even 2% of that money went back to Haiti. So, Mr. Trump, we are asking you, begging you, the Haitian community will side with you if one day you ask Hillary Clinton publicly to disclose the audit of all the money they have stolen from Haiti in 2010 after the earthquake.
So there you have it. That's pretty compelling testimony from the former head of the Senate, or the Senate president of Haiti, talking about the corruption that came with the Clintons and how they actually offered to make him the richest man in Haiti in exchange for selling out his country, and he wouldn't do it. So, look, President Trump knows about all of this. We all know about all of this. There were billions of dollars raised. Only 2% went to the people of Haiti after the 2010 earthquake. And there should be justice there. So hopefully we'll actually get that one day. Another story I want to talk about real quick. FBI Records Vault says earlier today, they released the Protocols of the Elders of Zion, I think is what it's called. And so it's crazy what you see here, but they actually say now that it was a mistake. So the FBI Records Vault, we covered this in the last episode, released it, the learned Protocols of the Elders of Zion, and now it's saying that earlier today FOIA materials were posted to the FBI's vault and FOIA Twitter account via an automated process without further outlining the context of the documents. We regret this release may have inadvertently caused distress among the communities we serve. So basically they're not saying that it shouldn't have come out, they just said that they should have given context to it. And of course everyone's losing their mind, but I just thought that was interesting, so I shared that with you. Another story that just broke today, Trump reacts to the arrest of Steve Bannon and Brian Kolfage, who were involved in that private project to build the wall. Now, what they're alleging through these arrests and allegations here is that Steve Bannon and Brian Kolfage raised hundreds of thousands of dollars to build this wall, and they basically stole this money from people. So, look, it's interesting, and if you want to follow this, it's a fascinating story, but it seems as though they're going after people who they see as the biggest threat, obviously. And, to speak on this project, you all probably saw it as it happened. They raised, millions of dollars, it seemed, for this private wall, which they ended up building down on the border. And now it seems as though they're suing them because a lot of that money wasn't used, or wasn't used properly, as they would put it. So, it's a fascinating story, but ultimately you can tell that they're going against all the people who are organizing against them. And what you can say what you will about Bannon. I think Brian Kolfage is a honorable guy. They seem pretty honorable. They seem pretty intent on being pro-America. They helped build this border wall. So it's obviously, in my opinion, probably going to end up being a political attack of these individuals. And look, they go after these people, let's put it this way, because they're the ones who are most effective at organizing. I mean, what were they trying to do? I mean, the last thing I saw Steve Bannon working on was getting people registered to become election officials. And if you're not registered to be an election official in your state, in your county, in your wherever you're in your county, I should say, you need to go do that right now. So with this aside, I would like to emphasize that you all need to go and register as election officials to make sure they can't steal this election from us. I would highly recommend that we all get involved in the election process in that manner. So yeah. Another story that I want to cover here, and I'll leave links to all these if you want to read through them, but Netflix debuts its trailer, new movie sexualizing children. You can't make this stuff up because the people who run Netflix obviously are evil, and in my opinion, because they're sexualizing children in this video. It's just disgusting. And it is the worst kind of thing. It's because pedophiles run Netflix. And who's on the board of Netflix? Who was on the board of Netflix? Oh, the Obamas, I think, and Susan Rice. So are you surprised? Are you surprised that they do this stuff? It's disgusting. These people make me sick to my stomach. Another story here, Minnesota reversing course on hydroxychloroquine. That's a pretty big story, so we'll keep an eye on that. And the San Francisco cops aren't waiting around to be defunded. They're leaving en masse. Well, I wouldn't want to stick around in San Francisco either. That place is a complete nightmare. And in the same breath, you have business owners leaving downtown Portland after their businesses have basically been shut down by these Antifa rioters, these BLM rioters. So this is all part of the plan, though. You know, they use their paramilitary mob to drive out the hardworking middle class so that then they can come buy it up for pennies on the dollar. So, yeah, but that's where we're going to go ahead and leave it. As always, watch these videos, share them on your social media, leave your thoughts, theories, and insights below. I want to hear what you guys have to say. You can also find me on Twitter at JustinFormU. You can find me over on, also on Twitter at informed_news. I'm on Parlor at JustinFormedTalk, and on BitChute is the backup channel, JustinFormed Talk over there as well. And JustinFormedNews.com is the official website for JustinFormed Talk, where you get links to the Q stuff, different news sites, breaking news, and of course the latest videos. You can also come over here and check me out if you want to make a contribution and keep this channel running on Patreon. It's a crowdfunding website, monthly donation. They've done everything to demonetize this channel, put it out of business. But with your support, this channel will continue to remain. And you guys have kept it alive so far. So if you want to consider donating, it really helps out to keep this channel alive. And I also have a GoFundMe set up if you want to make a one-time or anonymous donation. Links to everything will be in the description below this video. Now, before we go, we do a segment at the end called God's Grace is Greater. And like I said in the beginning, a very close friend of mine who I've known for years passed away this morning. May she rest in peace. We were very close, and it just is the toughest thing in the world when somebody has a tough life and then they have to die tragically in such an awful way. But I want to remember the good about her. She was an amazing person, and I'm working hopefully to get in touch with her family to have them set up some kind of GoFundMe, and then I'll share that with you guys so we can kind of help them raise the cost for funerals. But she was a light in the world. She was a beautiful soul. She was so kind and loving, and she was afflicted in her last days, but I know now she's in heaven with God. And sorry, it's just got the news like right before I started recording, so I'm gonna read this verse in her honor. It's Psalm 23, and I'm sorry, I'm still processing it. I just got the news this morning, but Psalm 23 is the verse I want to share today in honor of her, and it says, "The Lord is my shepherd; there is nothing I lack. He lets me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He renews my life. He leads me along the right paths for his name's sake. Even when I go through the darkest valley, I fear no danger. For you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Only goodness and faithful love will pursue me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord as long as I live." And that's where I'm going to go ahead and leave it. Thank you guys for watching, and we're here with you, Beth. We love you. May you rest in peace in heaven. I'm sorry about that. Thank you guys. I hope you pray for her family, and I'll let you know if I can find a way to help support them through this time. But that's it for me. Thanks for watching JustinFormed Talk. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button if you guys like this content, and that's it though. Thanks for watching. Godspeed, and God bless each and every one of you patriots.